So a lot of discussions have been had in the last few weeks about NBA viewership and the fact that it's continued to fall further and further. This ain't really a new talking point. I feel like we've been having this conversation for a few years now. It's gotten pretty old. To be fair, the numbers are getting remarkably bad though, like worse than before, and everyone's been tossing out ideas as to why it's getting so bad. The easiest and most obvious thing to point to would be how comically hard it is to watch NBA games. Everyone compares NFL ratings to NBA ratings in terms of numbers, but it's laughably easier to just throw on a football game than it is to put on an NBA game. Pretty much every football game is on your average TV channels like CBS, Fox, NBC, or ABC. Everybody automatically has those, so when Sunday comes around and you want to watch a game, you just throw them on. Simple as that. NBA? No, sir. NBA games are rarely on those channels at all. The only times we see them, there are those occasional primetime ABC games. To actually keep up with your team, you got to buy League Pass, and even then, you can't get all your team's games. You got to get a whole nother package because of bullshit like blackouts. It's just too complicated for your average person. Casual football watchers who just want to throw on an NFL game can just turn on the TV. Casual NBA fans have to climb a mountain and slay a dragon to catch Bulls Hawks at 7:30 after a long day at work. This turned a lot of people to illegal streaming, and you could argue that people also stream other sports illegally, but I promise you, not as much as the NBA. It's the least accessible of the big team sports here in America. They even caught LeBron using StreamEast at a game once. LeBron, the biggest athlete in the sport. If that wasn't enough to tell Silver that they got a TV problem, then I don't know what is. College basketball on both the men's and women's side has been thriving viewership-wise, partially because of how easy it is to access, with a lot of the games being on CBS during March Madness and shit. It's not just the accessibility, though. There's a bunch of other different issues that could be contributing. We could go down the list. Some people argue that the NBA needs new players to be the faces of the league, and that's understandable. LeBron finna retire any day now, Curry getting up there, KD getting up there, the old generation on the way out. One could say that the NBA doesn't really need anybody to be the face of the league, and to an extent, they're right. The NBA is always going to have its core fans, whether there's a face of the league or not. As a matter of fact, this entire TV viewership argument isn't really about the core fans, it's about the casuals. The hardcore basketball fans aren't really going to stop watching the NBA. All these different suggestions on how to fix the NBA's viewership problem is basically about bringing casuals back to the sport, or the NBA more specifically. It's why I find it kind of funny when people act like the NBA isn't going to survive just because TV ratings specifically are low. TV viewership when it comes to shit like this isn't really an accurate way to judge relevance or how much the league is thriving exactly. Having a face of the league is the easiest way to boost ratings, and historically, the NBA has thrived the most when someone was clearly the center of the basketball world's attention. From the 80s to the end of the century, the NBA was Gucci from a standout superstar standpoint. Magic and Bird first saved the NBA and brought it to the forefront of American sports with their rivalry. Then MJ took over and dragged the NBA to the peak of its popularity. The numbers back then compared to now are pretty insane. Then, the moment he retired the second time, there was an alarmingly sharp drop in viewership. His infamous Last Dance finals averaged 29 million viewers. The next one, San Antonio versus New York, averaged 16 million. Yikes. They never fully recovered either, only getting close during the legendary Warriors-Cavs rivalry. The 2016 and 17 finals were the only ones to ever hit an average of 20 million viewers since MJ. Of course, those series were highlighted by the greatest player of this generation, LeBron, and another one of the most influential and popular superstars ever, Curry. When Braun moved to Miami and formed his Big Three in what is largely viewed as the physical peak of his career, NBA ratings jumped again as he searched for his first title, and they stayed pretty solid till he left for Cleveland. People who try to say star power isn't that important are lying to themselves. That's not to say there's less talent nowadays or anything. The NBA has never been more talented, but star power and talent are two different things. Tim Duncan is the best power forward ever, but does he have the star power to make casuals turn on the TV? Hell nah. He not doing 360 windmills or hitting 35-footers. He in the post doing slow-ass spin move layups and showing off his footwork. Currently, the NBA is in a transitional period where the next generation of American stars are on the rise while the old generation is on their way out. Right now, we're in this middle ground where the majority of superstars in their prime right now are foreigners, and we know based on the past that they usually don't attract as many casual viewers as American superstars like MJ, Braun, and Kobe. Jokic, Giannis, Luka, all Europeans. Even Shea is Canadian. None of them have offered the solution to the quote-unquote face of the league problem. Wemby is a potential anomaly. I mean, his debut was the biggest opening night viewer-wise in over a decade, but he's still young. There's still numerous other issues the NBA has that might be the cause of lower viewership too. It's not just not having a main star. The ridiculous foul calls and foul baiting and the awful refereeing has turned many fans off. The barrage of three-point shooting and sometimes awful basketball has turned people off too. The vibes aren't really there in some ways, and it's definitely hurt them. That's one of the problems. The NFL NFL basically snatched Christmas Day from them, a day that used to be all about basketball. Last year, football completely took over and absolutely crushed basketball viewership-wise, with all 3 games pulling over 25 million viewers, while only one of the NBA games, Lakers-Celtics, managed to get 5 million. The finals has lost a lot of the aura around it. The court is bland. The scoreboard looks regular as hell. You used to be able to turn on a finals game and tell it was a finals game from the vibes alone. Now they look like your average January game. The presentation is so ass. All-Star Weekend is nowhere near as fun. The dunk contest has run out of dunks that are humanly possible, and nobody's creative enough to come up with anything fresh. Nobody tries in the All-Star game, and it's just lame as hell now. I always used to think that they could have fixed this by adopting what the MLB used to do and have it determine home court in the finals just to give it a spark, because it's so fucking dead now. People brought up the solid point that seeding then wouldn't matter, though, which I guess is fair. A one-on-one tournament for a bunch of prize money, like maybe $1 million or something, might bring All-Star Weekend back to life, too. I don't know, bro. They got to do something. Adam Silver doesn't really seem to be budging on a lot of these things, though. And if that's the case, then we might just have to wait for the next MJ or LeBron to drag NBA viewership out of the dump it's been in that really turned into a crisis when COVID hit.